Okay, hi everyone. I'm Denise Munro. I'm the Administrative Secretary at the Alzheimer's Scotland Dementia Research Centre, which is headed by Dr Tom Russ, who's also chairing today. So I've worked at the centre actually for 8 years now, so that tells you something about how nice a place it is to be. But we are funded by Alzheimer's Scotland, and it is a collaboration between the centre, the Alzheimer's Centre, and the Neuroprogressive and Dementia Network, who are obviously organising today. And we are supported by the Scottish Dementia Research Interest Register, where people can register their interest to be involved in the Dementia Brain Tissue Bank. And actually following on from JDR talk, we're also on there, so you can find out or register interest there as well. And we're also supported by the Health Informatics Centre based at the University of Dundee, which provides a database for storing all the clinical and cognitive data for any of our donors that register. So we have our biggest supporters really are our donors, and we've had 57 so far received over the 10 years that the bank's been running. We can currently accept donations from anyone with a diagnosis of dementia in Scotland, based in mainland Scotland, and I'll touch on that a little bit later, the logistics of getting somebody from the islands and the time that would take is a little bit more difficult to organise. So we can't support that at the moment, but I think there's plans to look at that in the future. So what is brain tissue donation? So it's where samples, quite small samples of the brain are taken at post-mortem. It's a limited post-mortem, so it's not the whole brain, it's limited to the head, and it's just these small tissue samples. And that is used to contribute to research looking at cellular level of dementias. And it's paired, as I said, with the cognitive and clinical data that is stored at the Health Informatics Centre in Dundee, and that informs that brain tissue. So Professor Colin Smith, who's the neuropathologist who does the vast majority of the brain tissue donations, the post-mortems, I think in all my time there he's only not done one, I think on holiday, so that even they need holidays. And he's also based at the University of Edinburgh and does research there. So this is a quote from him, and you'll find a bit more of that in the network strategy. But essentially what he's saying here is that it allows, brain tissue donation is important because it allows investigations on the cellular level, and that allows comparison to animal models and other understandings we've got from research in those areas. Something that Tom was just schooling us on yesterday is one of the researchers who does work with some of the brain tissue samples from donors that register with our bank is Dr. Tara Spires Jones. So she pioneered array tomography use in human brain tissue. I think that was developed in Boston, and she brought that to Edinburgh, and that allows specialised imaging of donated brain tissue. I think the benefit or the superiority it has over other imaging is that the spatial resolution is better. I think that's something you might want to read on if you're interested in that. And they can take very small, allows high quality images from very small tissue samples, which can look at the synapses and the connections between them in brains with dementia and tell us a little bit about what's going on there. But what Tom was telling us yesterday is that there's only 3 places in the world that use this technology on human brain tissue, and that's, I believe, England, Edinburgh now, thanks to Tara, and I think the third one is Massachusetts. They've got a dementia research centre, so I think that may be the third one. So yeah, there's a lot of information about Tara's work on the Edinburgh University website if you're interested in that. And if you're at the Alzheimer's Scotland conference last week, she spoke there about this. And I've heard from I didn't hear that talk, but I've heard a lot of people found that quite interesting. So you might want to look into that if you're interested. I think I mentioned a moment ago, we had 10 years now of the Brain Tissue Bank. I think our first registrant was in 2012. And over the time, I think everyone involved has always looked at ways to improve it, but I know that Tom and Emma are currently looking at how they can expand inclusion and help increase numbers. And one way that they're looking to do that is, like I said, looking at how they might explore inclusion for people on the islands. The reason we've not been able to do that now is because of, like I said, the logistics of getting somebody down in a small window that we have to get viable tissue from donors. And another commitment that they've made to try and improve the brain bank is to bring it in alignment with other brain banks in England and Europe through the data that's collected, through the clinical and cognitive data that's collected, and that will allow the brain tissue samples to be used in larger collaborative projects across Europe and England. And we've also just introduced repeated testing of donors through annual cognition tests. That will be done over telephone, and that will allow ongoing information to be collected throughout the progression of the disease. And yeah, but you can read about all these improvements and developments on the network strategy. So this is the process that you would go through if you're interested in donating brain tissue or anyone you know is. Now, this diagram's on the brain tissue leaflets, so we have them outside and the network have them, so you can come and collect those today. And this was put together by the network, in fact. And you'll see the first stage is to let us know you're interested. And you can do that by getting in touch with us at the centre, getting in touch with the network or the Alzheimer's Scotland Dementia Helpline. That will most likely, in all cases, come directly to the centre, and I'll probably pick that up. And I'll get in touch with you, collect some information, and send you out an information bag. I'll then pass your information on to the network staff, and they will send a clinical studies officer to contact you and arrange a visit. That can be done over telephone now, I think, post-COVID, or in a clinic or at home. And they will take you through the study, take you through the process of donating and how your tissue would be used, and also take you through cognitive assessments and any other data they need, which, as I said, will help inform the use of that tissue and make it as valuable as possible. Following that, we'll have these yearly, well, first of all, we'll have a telephone follow-up a week later. This is the new part of the new development that's come in. And then subsequently yearly touch and base with you and going through those telephone calls. It says on both parts here that we recommend a carer or supporters with the person to support them through these processes. And then the final step would be to notify the Alzheimer's Scotland 24-hour helpline when the person who's registered dies. They'll usually come from a close family member. They'll let us know, and they'll let the Edinburgh Brain and Tissue Bank know. They're another one of our supporters. And they'll arrange for the donor to be transferred to Edinburgh. It's usually Tracy Miller, who's the senior research nurse there. She coordinates the vast majority of our donations and has been doing for years. She'll bring the donors to Edinburgh, and they'll undergo post-mortem for those small brain tissue samples to be taken. As I said, it's not the whole brain, it's these small tissue samples. And they will then arrange return of the donor to the family funeral directors. This is usually done over a course of a couple of days, within 48 hours. Very rarely, maybe crossing over into 3 days. And this comes at no extra cost to family, no cost to family, and no delays to funeral either. But if there's any specific arrangements, you'd obviously let us know, and the brain bank would facilitate that. So that would be the last stage. And like I said, we'd advise all donors to keep in touch with the Dementia Helpline if anything like that was to come up or anything else. So the final stage would be to issue a post-mortem report to family members. That's initially released to the centre. The neuropathologist puts down the details of the post-mortem in that, and they issue that to us. We'll pass it on to the family GP and let the relative know that we've received that. We generally get good, we've always had very positive feedback from all families that have been involved, but one of the particularly positive feedbacks is that it's really helpful to have the details that come out of that neuropathology report. For some, it gives them a definitive diagnosis of what's going on there in the brain, and what dementia they may have had. And I think that's the last one from me. You can get in touch with us, either the Alzheimer's Scotland 24-hour helpline, the centre, or the network. There's our contact details there. We've got leaflets outside. And there's a QR code there which will take you to the brain tissue bank contact card, which you can put your information in, and we'll follow that up there. So that's all from me. It's quite quick.